Couple of buddies that are card shopping together for their wives. Check this out.
Alright, I got it. She's gonna love it. Let's go.
Well, how'd you find a card so fast?
I'm speaker of lady language. I hear their voices in my head, much like Beethoven heard music.
No, I think it was just voices.
Either way, I've got a card and you don't.
I'm trying to find one with the right words. I can't find one that really describes how I feel.
Here, this one.
This one. This is the one.
Yeah.
Okay. Sugar is sweet and so is honey. I bought you this card because I had no money.
That is so you!
It's not.
Yes, it is!
It's not. It's not me.
What are you trying to say?
I need a card that says, I don't deserve you. I never have, and I never will. From the moment that I first saw you, I knew that I wanted to be with you, to know you, to understand you. I am humbled that you chose me. I have married out of my league, and there's not a day that goes by that I don't recognize that fact. And I've never taken our vows lightly. What do I say to the mother of my children, my best friend, my soulmate? I love you can just sound so cliche and trite, but it's the only words that I know. I love you. I mean, that would be a card, you know? That would be a card that I'd want to buy. What's the matter? What happened?
Don't look at me!
Okay, well, look away! I have, well, what's the matter?
It's like I'm a swimming pool, and your words are like cannonballs landing. Pull yourself together, man. Attention, everybody. We are in the presence of a true wordsmith.
No, we're not.
Allow his words to be the wings on which your cards fly.
No.
I want what he's having.
Okay, we need to go. We need to go right now.
I've got an idea. We'll get those cards that are blank on the inside, and we'll write your words on them, and then we'll give them to our ladies. But we have to write in calligraphy.
I'm just going to take your card.
Wait, what was that part about the true soulmates? I need a pen. I'm gonna write this down. That stuff is gold. That'll give me a whole Sunday of football.
That's all right. If we have time, I'll tell you more about these, but make sure you zip by the book table back there and sign up for a free book giveaway here in a minute. We'll do it after lunch. We bring some banks with us, both authors that we like a lot of authors when it comes to marriage books, but several of them talk about everyone in marriage having a love bank or a love tank. Just depends on who you're reading, what they refer to it as. That you have one of these, I have one of these, everybody has one of these. And when we started trying to figure out how to best do this session, I told Lee, I said, I'm not doing this if I can't find a manly looking piggy bank. So we finally, it's like Army, so we did good on that. I wasn't going to use a pink one. But everybody has one of these, and your job, just like any bank account, your job is to put more deposits into your spouse's love bank than you take out withdrawals. That just makes sense, right? That's good banking. If you are constantly pulling out withdrawals by not meeting their needs or by doing things that get on their nerves, the bank is empty, and that's not healthy. Your marriage is empty. The little couple I told you about earlier, where he was always using his wife as the butt of his jokes and was always critical, her bank was totally empty. What happened was she was going to work, and a guy at work very innocently just told her one day, started off with, "Hey, is that a new shirt? You sure look pretty in pink." Man, he made deposits. First time she's heard anything nice about her in forever. A couple of deposits went into her very empty bank account. Her husband had put nothing in it. She thought, well, maybe that's what I need to make my husband happy. I wear pink more often, or some new shirts, and he never noticed. But the guy at work just made a comment one day about, hey, you got your hair done. Your hair looks nice today. More deposit. Guess before long, who had more funds in her love bank than her husband did? Well, the guy that she worked with. And all of a sudden she was like, why am I hanging out with this jerk husband when this guy is so good to me? So, and that's how affairs start. I mean, you can do that with any kind of need. Whatever your spouse needs, I have to put that. When Lee said earlier, she needs some domestic support. She needs to be, what's that love language you were talking about?
Acts of service.
Acts of service. When Lee loves it when I fill up her car with gas. Man, I just put deposits. I just fill that up. And so I just want to make sure I'm not doing things, saying things that pull out withdrawals that I've worked hard to put deposits in. Now, we do that every day. Words and actions. So if I came along today and I would have said something to Lee about, you look beautiful today, I like the outfit you picked out, guess what would have happened? Simple.
Thank you.
She still likes to hear those things, even after 29 years of marriage, that she looks pretty. If I would have said, supper was amazing, thank you for being such a good cook and fixing for me.
Thank you.
And if I would have thrown in there, why don't you let me clean up the kitchen and do the dishes, guess what? That's her love language, so...
Extra for that.
Extra for that. Now, but what would have happened if I'd have got up this morning and go, why'd you pick that out to wear today? You know, guess what would have happened? Notice, instead of going in her heart, in her love bank that I've got an account in, stuff would have come out, right? Or if I'd have said something like, man, you must have been hungry tonight. You put away a lot of food.
Rude.
Or if I would have said something along the lines of, hey, I know our anniversary's coming up. Are you okay with... The guys want to go fishing on our anniversary. We could do something together later. What do you think of that? Maybe not? Okay. And so you get an idea. You get an idea of kind of how the love bank works. And the same works true for the men, right?
If I were to say, you look really nice today. I love that blue on you.
Hey, I'd be thinking I'm wearing this shirt for the rest of the week.
Or if I would say something like, oh, thanks for playing ball with Coop today. You are just the best dad.
Deposits.
Fixed your favorite meal.
Bacon?
Bacon.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that would have been bonus.
Or if I were to do the opposite, and maybe I said something to him like, would you stop smacking? You sound just like one of the kids.
I'd have probably thought, I didn't know I married my mom, right? You know, and deposits would have come out of my love bank.
Honey, I know that the big game is on tonight.
Go Cowboys!
But I promised the girls that you'd go to the baby shower with me.
Baby shower? Yeah.
Or, oh, guess what?
Tell me.
Bought some new sleepwear.
Oh, I like it when you buy new sleepwear. Is it really sheer?
Well, it's really soft.
Is it really short?
Well, it's really warm.
Small?
You know, it's going to keep me really warm this winter. It covers my feet, and then it has a zipper that zips all the way.
So all those things, and it just works that way. Our goal is to put more in than comes out. Now, one of the things that takes place to keep a marriage from going bankrupt, and this is your outline if you're in your book, to keep a marriage from going bankrupt, it's important that you put in more deposits than you take out withdrawals. That's common banking sense. Bad habits in marriage pull out withdrawals. So you don't want to do the bad habits that get under your spouse's skin. So let's talk about 6 bad habits. Very quick little session, real quick. Number 1, you want to be someone who does a good job of making requests, not demands, because demands are bad habits. And you know what a demand is? That's when you just simply say, no, we're not doing it that way. Or why would we ever want to do it that way? It's when you don't even give your spouse an option to have an opinion on something. You just simply demand something. And sometimes it may be something you feel very serious about. Can you imagine if I would have come in from work and maybe I'm tired, maybe it was a really, really hard day today. and I am emotionally exhausted. And I gave her a 7-second kiss, or hug, and I told her supper was good. I even picked my plate up and moved it to the sink. I'm a good husband, but all I know is I cannot wait until I can get to that recliner, and at 7 o'clock, I'm finally there, and I kick back in my recliner, and I find the baseball game, and it's like, finally, I am exhausted. And what I don't know is,
I've had a really long day too. And so here I am facing this messy kitchen I have to clean up. There's laundry piled up on the bed that I have to put away before we can get in it. The kids are running around like crazy, and they've still got homework to finish. They need baths, and I'm thinking, it's going to be 2 or 3 more hours before I can even sit down and rest. And what is he in there doing? He just plopped right down in front of the TV. And so maybe I go over to him and rip the remote out of his hand, and I say, look, you can either help with the kids or do the dishes, but you're not going to just sit here and watch TV. So how well does that go over? And you may be thinking, well, he should have been up helping. Yes, he should have been up helping, but when you just lay down the law like that, that just doesn't ever go over very well. So maybe you could collect your thoughts and approach it more like, honey, I know that you are so tired, you've worked hard today, and you deserve to sit down and rest, but man, I've really had a long day too, and I've still got quite a bit to do before I can sit down and rest. Do you think maybe you could pause the game and get the kids started with their homework and their baths? I'm gonna knock out these dishes and put up some laundry, and then when the kids are in bed, we can sit down and watch this together and just relax. Wouldn't that be great?
good idea.
See how maybe just a little bit different tone of voice, a little bit different way of saying things can make a huge difference.
So make sure that when it comes to marriage and life with your spouse, you're not making demands, you're making requests, because demands pull out those deposits that you put in. Another thing that will pull out all the things when you're working to fill your life's love bank is criticism. Criticism will really mess up your love bank account for your spouse. In fact, you want to be an encourager, not a criticizer.
Do you ever try to straighten your spouse out? Do you ever lecture your spouse because you think your way of thinking is better than theirs? We talked about our differences early this morning, and another one of our differences is I'm a glass half empty kind of person, and Trey's a glass half full kind of person. He's more positive, more optimistic, more encouraging, and I'm a little more, pessimistic, critical. I tend to see all the flaws first, and sometimes we think it's our job to fix our spouse. Well, I need to point out everything that they're doing wrong so they can fix it and make it better. And what they really probably need more than criticism and you pointing out all their little things is for you to encourage them and build them up and be their biggest fan, be their biggest cheerleader.
Be cautious that you don't come across as just being a critic. Criticism is just simply hard on your marriage. And it's easy, as we said at the start of the workshop, it is easy the longer you are to be married to notice what it is that you don't like about your spouse. And you overlook those things that they do well. Pick out the things that they do well and focus on those.
And if you do find yourself relating more to being, more of a glass half empty kind of person, encouragement and praise doesn't come real easy to us. It's not a natural thing for us. And so we have to work a little bit harder at it, but it's possible and it's important.
Another thing we can do is lengthen our fuse, meaning anger and even tone is one of those things that take out withdrawals. When you worked hard to put some stuff in your spouse's bank and you come across, maybe traffic was rough on the way home, maybe your boss was a grouch today, whatever it is, and you come in the door and you have that kind of tone, that little sharp tone with your spouse, it just takes out withdrawals. Even if you're frustrated with them, you being sharp or using a tone or being quick with an answer, because you're a very destructive thing on relationships. And if you're a person that has a short fuse, that's not a healthy thing as a parent or as a spouse. Because short fuses, if your kids never know when you're going to blow up, your kids avoid you a lot of times. And can you imagine? How does that make you feel to know your kids avoid you because they're afraid you might blow up? Or your spouse because you might blow up? Anger is not a healthy part of your marriage. Learn to lengthen your fuse. Be cautious about being sharp with your spouse. We tend to blame sometimes our short fuse on our genes. My dad had a short temper. His dad had a short temper. Or my mom had a short fuse, and my grandma had a short fuse. And if you're one of those who just goes, hey, it runs in the family, let me just say that is absolutely a ridiculous excuse. That it is something that can be fixed. Can you imagine running into a guy you know and he's dragging around his leg, you know, and you go, hey, dude, what happened to your leg? I broke it last year. Well, have you got it fixed? No, I just drag it around. You would be going, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I mean, and can you imagine asking, why are you dragging your leg around like that with it broke? Get it fixed. My dad had a broke leg and he drug it around. And my granddad had a broke leg and he drug it around. You'd be going, that's stupid. Go get your leg fixed. Same is true if you're walking around all the time going, hey, you know, my granddad, he got angry and had a short fuse. My dad had a short fuse. My mom had a short fuse. No, that's a terrible excuse. It's fixable. Fix it. Don't drag it around because it'll mess things up. And I'll tell you this. Remember how we talked about you're raising kids just like you? You're going to be embarrassed someday if you've got small children and they watch you blow your top and yell and scream and call names and cuss. None of those things should be a part of your house. And then you catch your kids doing the same thing. They've learned it from you, and that's why it's been passed down to them. So break that cycle. Go ahead and add to that.
A lot of people that have an anger problem don't really see it as their problem. They always want to blame it, you know, on somebody else or something else. It's like, well, if they wouldn't have cut me off in traffic, I wouldn't have got angry. Or if she wouldn't have spoke so rude to me, I wouldn't have gotten angry. And while it usually is always a circumstance that causes us to get angry, we totally have the choice how we're going to react to that circumstance. So as Trey said, it's fixable. We don't have to blow our top, you know, lengthen your fuse.
Number 4, honesty is the best policy. Honesty is the best policy. Meaning dishonesty is one of those things that takes huge chunks out of your love bank. And dishonesty comes in many forms and fashions. Dishonesty, a lot of times people go, well, I just wouldn't just lie to my, but sometimes little white lies, still a lie, breaks down the foundation of your marriage because you're being dishonest. There's a lot of ways to be dishonest, even as what you may consider as simple as exaggeration is dishonesty. Well, you know, the fish that was really this big that becomes this big, or traffic that seemed to be really terrible on the way home, and you know, it's just terrible. And it really, if it was the crowd that was there was 100 people there, and all of a sudden it becomes 300 people. That's a form of dishonesty. And any area where you're dishonest, it breaks down the foundation of your marriage. What's another way?
Another way people are dishonest, there are protective liars. Some people think, well, my wife or my husband, they would just worry about that. So I think I just won't tell them about it because, you know, I'm helping them out. They would just worry about that too much. I'm going to protect them from that. But usually the spouse finds out about it eventually, and then they're like, why did you not tell me about that? And then there's trust issues because, you know, just be honest all the time. Your spouse is a big girl or a big boy, and they can handle whatever it is.
Yeah. Another one, and this is a real big one in marriage, is the avoid trouble dishonesty or the avoid trouble liar. And that is someone who goes, man, my spouse is going to be so mad at me if they find out I bought this new pair of shoes, right? Even though they were on sale, and your husband asks, you hoped he wouldn't notice, and he goes, hey, cute shoes, have you had? I've had those forever, you know, and you bought them last week and they weren't in the budget, and you've avoided trouble, but you were dishonest. Or it can be the new tool in the garage, guys, whatever it is, it's not healthy. It can be the me telling Lee, let's go to the concert, I'll get the babysitter, you get the tickets, and Thursday rolls around and she says,
what time's the babysitter going to be here?
And I think, oh, that was my job? Now, I've got a couple options. I can go, oh, she sent a message a while ago and can't come, we need to find someone else, and I think I've avoided trouble. Well, what happens when she finds out that I really never did get her called? So it's better just to be upfront. Don't be dishonest by trying to avoid trouble. Another way?
Another thing that can come across as dishonesty is a lack of communication. If you noticed, if you worked through your needs, the list of 10 needs, that honesty and openness are put together there. A lack of openness can come across as dishonesty. And we had to learn this the hard way when we were newlyweds. Trey would, go to work all day and come home, and I'd say, what'd you do today? And he would say,
nothing.
Nothing every day. That's the answer I got, was nothing. And I thought, well, I know he doesn't just go do nothing, so he must be keeping something from me that he doesn't want me to know. I'm young and immature, and I start imagining all these things that he might be doing. And, I finally we talked about it, and I said, I don't think he thought, oh, why does she want to know that I went to the nursing home and I worked on a lesson and I had coffee with Bob? Those are boring things. Why would she want to know that? And for me to explain, it makes me feel a little bit part of your day when you tell me what you did. Even though we weren't together, I feel like I'm a little bit a part of that. I've been home changing diapers and watching Barney, and it's just kind of great to have some conversation every once in a while. So open up with your spouse. If they ask you a question, give them details if they need details.
And this is a great point to throw this out there. You don't have to understand why your spouse needs what they need in order for you to give that. Does that make sense? Lee has some stuff on her that she needs on her side of the list that make no sense to me. It's like, why would anybody ever need that? But because she needs it, not only am I willing to give it, I'm happily willing to give it. And so when she says, how was your day? It was good. What'd you do today? I'll go down to what I consider a ridiculous list of boring things that why would anybody want to know, but it makes her happy. And if that makes her happy and she needs to know them, I'm more than happy to give those things. Whatever your spouse needs, whether it's sexual fulfillment, whether it's conversation, I don't always understand why you got to talk about everything. I'm a man. I don't have to talk about everything, But if that's what my spouse needs, then I'm more than willing to participate in that. Because I don't have to understand what they need in order to give them what they need and do it happily. Nobody wants to begrudgingly meet their needs met. Nobody wants to, what'd you do today? Well, I guess I'll have to give you the list. I did this. It's kind of like, nobody wants that, right? Nobody wants their needs met like it's a chore or a duty. Can you imagine, Can you imagine your spouse coming in, if your spouse has sexual fulfillment way up on the top of their list, and go, hey, hon, it's been about 3 days. 3 days? It's been 3 days, and you already need this again? I guess we got 5 minutes. All right, let's go, You'd be going, well, I don't want to do that if that's how you're going to act. Can you imagine coming in going, honey, can we talk? We talked 3 days ago. Why do we need to talk again? All right, I guess I got 5 minutes. Why it's commercial in my show. Talk. What do you want to talk about? I don't want to talk if you're going to be like this. Nobody wants their needs met begrudgingly. If this is something your spouse needs, you love your spouse and you meet that need, whatever that is. Number 5, don't purposely get under your wife or husband's skin. Don't purposely. Bad habits of doing annoying things can drive your spouse crazy. Check this out. Go ahead, Lee.
When was the last time your spouse annoyed you? If you're a man, you may be trying to remember. If you're a woman, you're thinking, right now, he's annoying me right now. I don't know why women are more easily annoyed. We're going to blame it on our hormones, right? That's what we do. But I know for a fact that the most annoying thing about me to Trey is that I'm so easily annoyed.
Pretty much so. And sometimes I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm like, I'm annoying you right now, aren't I? You are. I don't even know what I'm doing. Now, we always laugh at this because women are so easily annoyed. We threw this kind of silly list, put it on Instagram the other day. But here's 8 things husbands do that annoy their wives. Being dishonest, yeah, of course. Being too honest, yes. Not talking enough, that's annoying. Talking too much is annoying. Not showing any emotion is annoying. Being too emotional, that's annoying. Breathing is annoying. Not breathing is annoying. So pretty much we'd understand as a man that we just are going to annoy you in a lot of ways, right? We're pretty good at that. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to do the very things that annoy your spouse deliberately. Does that make sense? Sometimes you're going to annoy your spouse, but don't do the very things that you know your spouse gets annoyed with. Don't do those things just to annoy them. It pulls out withdrawals. If your wife likes the roll of paper to go over the roll in the bathroom, put it that way. It won't kill you. If your spouse likes the toothpaste squeezed neatly at the bottom, I can learn to do that. All right? I'm not a monster. I don't have to squeeze it in the middle of the tube all the time. Don't do things that annoy your spouse deliberately. Add to that.
Dr. Willard Harley wrote a book called Love Busters, kind of a follow-up to his Meets Our Needs, and he talks about these 6 bad habits that we're talking about right now. And so in all of his counseling experience, he has compiled quite a list of annoying behaviors that couples have shared with him, and he lists off things like chewing ice, leaving your clothes in the floor when you get ready for bed, leaving toothpaste in the bathroom sink, using a certain phrase over and over again, spitting tobacco in the shower floor.
That was the worst. Isn't that gross?
That's really
So if you women are doing that, stop. That's gross.
So we can laugh at all these things, and as silly as it sounds, if you just keep doing what you know annoys your spouse, you really are pulling those withdrawals out of the love bank.
Be cautious about that. Number 6, don't be too independent. Now, marriage is about being interdependent, meaning I'm going to choose to be dependent on my wife. We're 2 separate people, but we're also the same person. We'll talk about that after lunch, meaning God created us to be one. I have a life outside of my wife, meaning I go to a workplace, she goes to a workplace, but at the same time, we are very, very cautious that we are not too independent. We're very careful that we want to be us before we're just me. I don't plan things. I don't make big decisions. I don't show up at house and go, hey, I bought a new car today without running it by my wife. No big purchases, no big decisions. We do that as a team. And one of the ways, time is one of those things. Scheduling is one of those things. We have on our phone, one of the things that we work real hard to do is we communicate our calendar real well with each other because we both are very, very busy people together and separately at times. And so if I have something that I think, oh, I got to throw that on the calendar, I've got this coming up, it automatically, we have our phone synced to where it will pop up on her phone and go into her calendar. She says, she has to hit the OK button, so she'll see that, hey, in 2 weeks, I'm planning on being in Amarillo for some kind of something that I've got going on. So we always sit down together and talk calendar or talk this or talk that. I would never just, she would never come in and go, hey, I'm going to be gone, this weekend. Thought I'd let you know I'm leaving in 5 minutes. We always work through certain things because we don't want to be too independent. Give us a couple of examples of that.
In the next session, Trey's going to talk a whole lot about soulmates versus roommates. And if you are too independent on lots of occasions, chances are you're living more as roommates instead of soulmates. Trey mentioned you need to make decisions together. You need to build common interests. All those things that we talked about, being interested in what each other does. If he likes to go deer hunting, I'm going to go deer hunting with him. If I love Pinterest, he's going to learn about Pinterest. Whatever it is, you build those common interests so that you're not looking across the table at each other when the kids leave home and go, oh, who are you? That openness that we talked about just a minute ago. Sharing the details of our day. Even if we're not together, we're going to share, we share our calendars. We're going to talk about what we did that day. We're going to talk about what's coming up. We're a team. And yes, we may have our own interests and I may spend time with the girls and he may go spend time with the guys occasionally. But for the most part, we're a team and we want to be interdependent upon one another.
Yeah, very good. So simple math is more positives plus less negatives equal a happier marriage. That's just that simple, isn't it? More positives plus less negatives equal a happy marriage. And it just kind of works that way. So our goal is to put more deposits in than we take out withdrawals. When you meet your spouse's needs, the 5 things, whatever it was they put down, you make deposits. When you say nice things about your spouse, you make deposits. Just make sure you're not taking out more than you put in. We talked about affairs. I'll just say this real quick one more time. Affairs happen when there's an empty bank from someone. Their needs, their spouse is not meeting their needs for whatever reason. And all of a sudden somebody comes along and starts saying something nice to them or does something nice to them and somebody else starts filling that bank up. And that's how affairs start. Nobody ever goes out and goes, I think I might have an affair this weekend. It always starts with just little deposits made by someone else in an already empty account. One of the things that we like, one of the things that's important, if you're stuffing your account full, if you're stuffing your spouse, their little account is just, if my wife's bank is just so full and there's no room for, what happens when some guy comes along and goes, hey, I like that pink shirt on you today. You look nice in that. She goes, thank you. My husband tells me that all the time. Does that make sense? It's not something she needs because she's already getting it. When some lady comes along and tells me, says, hey, you look nice in that blue shirt. I like it when you you look good in blue. Blue's your color. Instead of me going, ooh, that makes me feel really good. It may make me feel good, but man, my bank's already full because my wife tells me that all the time. She meets my needs. So keep that bank full, all right? Now, let me give you a couple of quick updates just so you'll know. We're not trying to run behind. Lunch is running about 15 minutes behind. So we'll be out of here and lunch will be served at about 12:15. But that gives us just a second to tell you about a couple of things real quick and then we'll be done. We brought in the back a table full of books. We do this not because we like to sell books. In fact, we hate selling books. It's a pain to drag books everywhere we go. But we do that because we talk a lot about books. Books have helped us a bunch. All of these books we've read and love very much. Those are books that really have affected us in our relationship. We bring them because we talk about it. We used to have couples back before we brought them and they'd go, man, you know that one book you talked about? We're going to get that because that's exactly what we'd need. And a couple of months later we'd run into them and go, hey, are y'all liking the book? And they'll go, oh, we never got around to ordering that book. And so we started going, what can we do to get books on marriage, good books, into hands of people who want to read them? Bring them with us so that you can buy them here. So we order them off of Amazon, do Amazon Prime so we don't have to pay shipping on them. So we get them as cheap as we can and we sell them to you cheap. You might could find a better deal online. I don't know, but we pretty much are selling them for pretty much what we've got into them. So we bring those not to make money off of them, but to say if we talk about a book and you go, that's a good book, we kind of need to get that book, there you go. It's back there. You can look at it. So
let's walk. Sorry, we can set them down.
Stand down here. So let us tell you about these and then we'll have a video and a prayer for lunch and it'll be time to eat pizza.
So I think, did you tell them to sign up for this?
I did.
During lunch, if you haven't signed up, this is a coupon book. It's kind of based off of the 5 love languages, so it's going to touch on all the different love languages, and there's going to be something in there that your spouse will just really love.
Yep.
So sign up for that.
That goes with one of our favorite books is 5 Love Language book. Have you, any of y'all, I know y'all have, some of y'all have read this one. This is a great book. 5 Love Languages, it's kind of like there are 5 languages every person speaks. Now, we speak English, all right? In marriage, there are 5 different languages you speak. Lee speaks acts of service. I don't speak acts of service. I speak touch. That's my love language, the one of the 5. Now, if you don't know your spouse's love language, I'm over here touching on my wife, going, this is what she needs. How are you today? And she's like, will you please quit touching me and go fill up my car with gas, you know, whatever it is, because that's her love language. And she's doing sweet things for me, and I'm like, thank you for putting up my laundry, but, you know, hey, can you come over here and snuggle on the couch with me? You know, because that's really what I like. So learn to meet your spouse's need and their love language. We actually we threw something on Facebook a while back in our little community and said, hey, we're going to study this book on Thursday nights. We'll take 8 couples that want to study this with us from the community. We turned, I don't remember, but we packed our house full and had to turn folks away, and this was such a good book. This is a great book if you want to learn about your spouse's love language. You got one?
If you found yourself relating to all of the differences that we talked about this morning, if you're really different from your spouse, this is the Personality Plus for couples, and it talks about the 4 different personality types and how they affect your marriage. And Florence Littauer uses a lot of humor. This is a fun book, and it really helped me a lot since we are so very different to understand why we're so different. So this was a good one.
My personal favorite book is a book called Sheet Music. I love this book. We give this book away a lot to couples getting married. But it's a book on intimacy, sexual intimacy. In fact, I'm just thinking it's probably time to read this one again, right? We always tell couples, if your husband's not a reader and you're thinking he won't read a book with me, if sexual fulfillment is somewhere up at the top of his list, if you'll get this one, he will read it with you, all right? 5 pages in, he'll go, this is the greatest book we've ever read in our life. This is a really, really good book. It really is. And it is on sexual intimacy. We'll talk a little bit about it later, but this book sells probably better than any of the ones that we bring. It just can put a spark back into things when things are a little
Okay, so his needs, her needs. We've talked a lot about that one this morning already. We've talked about the 10 basic needs. Building an affair-proof marriage. He talks about how if you're not meeting your spouse's needs, how easy it is to turn to an affair. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, that's good. That's a good book.
It's a great book, especially for newlyweds. Love Busters is the one that we have just talked about, all of the bad habits that you can fall into after time. So if you found yourself, you know, kind of relating to some of the things we talked about just now, you might want to pick this one up and do a little bit more.
This is the best book that I hated. Does that make sense? I did not like this book, but it was so good. In a sense that we went through a time in our marriage where it seemed like for a while, we just drove each other crazy. Things that I didn't like, she didn't like, and this book helped us to work through some of that. Because there were some things, because you don't want to walk over and go, I wish you wouldn't have a tone with me all the time, you know, and she didn't want to walk over and go, I wish you weren't dishonest all the time, you should tell me this, this, and this. And this book helped us to work through some of that. It's not fun. Nobody ever wants to go, hey, let's talk about your flaws. But the best thing you can do sometimes is to find out what is it that I'm doing wrong that I'm not seeing that I can do better on. And so we both worked on those things so much, and it's improved our marriage tremendously. Part of your homework during lunch is you'll see on that next page there is the little worksheet. There'll be a pink one and a blue one. Here's the wives, inventory for wives and husbands. And it's not a fun exercise. You don't go around, you know, nobody wants to know, hey, you get on my nerves when you crunch ice all day long or when you sit on the chair, you know, whatever it is. And you're going to talk a little bit about some of those things. Your spouse doesn't tell you these things so that they can be mean to you. It's so that you can know this is what's kind of under my skin at times, so that you don't do those things. So this was one of my favorite books that I didn't like, but it really, really, really helped us. One more, Dave Ramsey. We'll talk about this in right after lunch. We struggle financially as a young couple. Nobody told us about credit cards. Nobody explained how that worked. We had $8,000 in debt quick before we figured out, hey, they're charging us 24% interest, and we're paying a minimum each month. And Dave Ramsey helped us to understand that. So this was very, very good. And how much do we think this is important for marriages that are struggling financially? A lot of times we struggle to get this book for under $20 and we sell it for $20. So sometimes we take a hit on this book because we simply want to get it into hands of couples that need it. Explains how to get out of debt. And debt is one of those things that's hard on marriage.
And if you, in the size of Oklahoma City, there is probably a seminar somewhere, a financial peace seminar. Do y'all have one? Okay,
yeah, there you go.
So find one of those and go to it. It will help your marriage.
It is good stuff. It really, really is. And then we have a DVD. Some people ask us, say, well, how can my brother-in-law needs this workshop? We have a DVD out there on video. You can download the workbook and print it out of kind of what we're doing here. One more thing, and then we'll watch a video and have a prayer, and I think it'll be time to eat. And now I got to remember, we gave them homework assignments, and I guess I don't remember what that was. So get that homework done. Oh, I had something else I was going to mention. Oh, I know what it was. How many of you are not from this congregation, Lakehoma Church? All right, just like us. Now, I would like for a second for us to say thank you. Let's tell them thank you. They have brought us in and paid for all our expenses, which is good because they've charged you nothing. Does that make sense? They said, basically, they have said, we're going to pay for anybody who wants to come for free. They have provided childcare. They're feeding us lunch today, all these things. So if you see some Lakehoma folks, tell them thank you for being so good to us today. Now, I know these people. We have been here before. So if you live in this area, I would love to say, it doesn't bother me one drop. You live in this area and you don't have a place to go to church, you don't have a church home, check these folks out. These are good, good folks. This would be a great place. They love families, they love marriages. Good place to check out. Now, let's watch a video, and let's have a prayer, and then we'll watch this last video together. This last video is a little dim and a little quiet, so you may have to turn the volume up on this for just a sec. So let's have a prayer. Let's give God thanks for the food, and then we'll watch this video, and we'll dismiss for lunch. Father, thank you for our time today. Thank you for marriage. Thank you for blessing us with our spouse. If our marriage struggles at times, Father, it's because we screw it up. We don't do it as you have asked us to do. May we be unselfish. May we put our spouse's needs before ours. May we love you in such a way that it is demonstrated in the way we love our spouse. Thank you for our good food. Thank you for this good church. And thank you most of all for a good Jesus. In his name we pray. Amen. Check out this last video and you're dismissed.
Man, he's giving you a lot of those notes.
Yeah, I think it's cute.
Love is patient. Love is kind.
It's the most beautiful tiny ring I've ever seen.
Love doesn't boast.
It's not much.
But it's ours.
Welcome home.
Love isn't proud.
I'm sorry. there's no heartbeat.
Love protects.
Have to go.
Have a nice quiet day at work, hon.
Love doesn't envy.
Finally, you and me.
Love isn't self-seeking.
What time are you going home?
Love keeps no records of wrongs. Love always trusts and always hopes.